Good afternoon. My name is Shane Rowe with Canyon City Fire District here in Canyon City, Colorado. Going to talk to you today a little bit about interagency collaboration and coordination, enhancing synergy for effective outcomes. So what we'll talk about is building the foundation of interagency collaboration, innovative coordination for seamless response to multiple different incidents, if you will, benefits and challenges of interagency collaboration, operational synergy, and culminating product, and how having collaboration and coordination is going to be of benefit to whether it be a fire district, a city, a county, an agency, whatever it falls into for you. So as we look at the foundation of the interagency collaboration, we want to define what exactly is collaboration. So when we look at that, interagency collaboration is just that. It's two or more agencies coming together to successfully and effectively reach a common goal or their goals, and through shared expertise and resources. So when we're talking about that, there can be, this can be achieved through many different ways, but we'll dive a little bit deeper into the formal and informal partnerships that can be formed through the collaboration coordination process as we go through this. Some of the key principles and values we'll talk about are going to be trust and transparency. If we can't trust the agencies that we are working with or towards getting a partnership with through that collaboration process, how are we going to make this work? So trust is a huge one. Transparency, obviously, just that. We have to be transparent with our people that we're trying to work with and work with them just as it is. So we'll talk about the mutual respect and communication. If we don't have mutual respect, if we can't work with one another, it's going to be pretty hard. If we can't communicate with one another, it's going to be pretty hard. It just probably isn't going to work out. So through shared responsibility, collaboration is just that. We're going to, have these shared responsibilities so we can coordinate working towards successful operations. Commitment to objectives. Each and every stakeholder has to have and show commitment that they are a part of this, or else, that's like having somebody that, I want to work with you, but I'm not going to put the effort behind it. So if we, that's just not going to work. We got to have the commitment on all parties in order to make this work through the objectives that are set forth. A lot of the this comes from historical context and development of learning from people's history, the social or societal needs of the district, city, county agencies that are a part of this. Everybody's always got ever-changing budgets. It may be, you're only getting so much money from sales tax from the city this year, from a county. Is it a state organization that now we're on a federal shutdown or a federal agency, things of that nature. So budgets are always an issue that are driving factors. Fire growth in the wildland is becoming extremely huge. Fires are growing exponentially. They're wiping out many more structures, lives, and things like that. So how can we overcome that by having a collaborative and coordinated effort of, resources, personnel, things of that nature? And then obviously agency needs. Each agency is always, seems like, scratching for money. We may have, some different needs, whether it be resources in the name of people, whether it be apparatus. So it seems like everybody's always got a downfall of one of those things. So through these efforts of collaboration coordination, we can gain those resources and or personnel from our neighboring agencies. So the models and structures for coordination of how this is all going to take place, like we talked about a little bit earlier, was the formal and informal collaborative frameworks that can be utilized. And those can be your memorandums of understanding, your mutual aid agreements, your automatic aid agreements, all of those things. It may be the informal, not necessarily written documents that I don't want to necessarily say, good faith and handshake, but that may be exactly what that is in the name of an informal part of it. However, the contextual importance here is whether you have formal or informal, you need to have some type of framework set to have those agreements in place, so everybody is under the same understanding of wants, needs, wishes, things of that nature. And whether each agency that's becoming a part of this, those two or more agencies we talked about in the collaboration, join their own task force or committees or groups, however it is, you need to have something in place. That way, as it shows here, we've got to have a representative from each agency that is able to share that agency's goals, share, the different information to everybody else, so we're all on that same page, and you have, I want to say, one voice coming from those agencies and not a bunch of different people. That way we don't lose information through the phone tree, if you will, or however that works. So, but then your people have to be able to, facilitate how the collaborations and all of that work, and put build some policy amongst all agencies. So there is those understandings and there's procedure of how it's going to work and who's going to be a part of this and who's bringing what to the table. So, how we share this information is, that's to each his own, but we need to be able to share and show the importance of the information we are trying to gain and or produce. So the effective information sharing, as it states here, can expedite people's decisions of, why we're going to do this, who we're going to have as a part of the coordinated efforts, which apparatus, how many personnel, all of that. But all of this can be shown and will support the why of what we're doing. This is, it may be through data, the data gathering process of, hey, our district is short on personnel. Our budget doesn't allow us to hire anybody. So through these collaborative and coordinated efforts, we will, in a sense, gain this amount of personnel and these amount of apparatus to respond with to our district. And it's not at a cost to the district payers or all of those kinds of things. So how you share that information is entirely up to you. But data very rarely is going to not tell the truth. So if you can gather that data and put together good information for the stakeholders, you're probably going to be better off. So, there's always, we really want to talk about the benefits of this, because that's what we're pushing towards. But however, there is always challenges, always going to be challenges from, the stakeholders involved, from the communities, from the personnel at the different agencies, whatever. but there's always going to be challenges. But if we look at the benefits, hopefully it's going to outweigh those challenges. So what we're looking at here is the improved resource utilization and efficiency. So by pooling these resources, like I said, we can look at if one agency or whatever it may be is short on personnel, we can play that, like I stated earlier, of, if we have these agreements in place and the coordinated efforts, we can gain blank amount of people to aid in this specific incident. And really, it's not a cost to the taxpayers, the city, the county, or whatever the funding is from. So, these pooling of resources is huge. You're multiplying your resource pool significantly depending on the number of agencies that you have involved. We can definitely avoid the duplication of resources, which is going to help if we don't need to. I don't really know here how to explain it, but if we don't need certain resources, then we don't need to have those resources respond and or order. So we don't duplicate resources and take certain resources from their own areas just because that's what, was what we're just not duplicating. And then, just that, it's leveraging strength in numbers. Many hands make light work, I like to state. And if we can come together and see each and every incident come together at a successful end with, less lives lost, if any, less property lost, if any, then it's a successful outcome for the collaboration and coordination efforts of this. So some of the barriers that we talk about, or the challenges for this, is obviously going to be, you've got organizational silos, they call those, which, as it states, silos create isolated departments, or maybe people even, that hinder information flow and collaborative efforts across teams. So just that, that may be people that think knowledge is power and I'm going to keep that to myself and we don't need to be a part of this. So, they keep from the growth and they keep it to themselves, so we can't have those collaborative efforts. They're kind of just that roadblock, if you will. Competing priorities. Do people see it as competition, or I don't know. I like to think that we don't have a lot of egotistical things that are thrown in the way as roadblocks, but I think a lot of that comes from that. And maybe it is just because we can't give up any resources for the collaborative effort of said project or agreements. Communication gaps. Communication is always going to be a problem regardless of what you're doing, but it's how you communicate is going to be big. Maybe not so much what you say, but how you say it could be problems. Or do we can't somehow make the communication work? I think that's going to be huge to be able to, if you're setting these policies amongst different agencies, these SOPs, whatever it may be, sometimes that communication may just have to be you drive from point A to point B and have a face-to-face. Can't get it through email, can't get it over the phone, things like that. But communication is always can be a hindrance with a lot of different things. Cultural and legal constraints. Again, back to, well, that's just not the culture of how we operate. Well, again, set down some of those thoughts, as other people can bring some great ideas to the table. Legal constraints, legal issues, that's where, your team or your committee or whatever you have may have to bring lawyers, attorneys, that legal aspect of your agency to the table and hash things out as well. So how are we going to overcome those things, those problems or issues, constraints? So through meetings, whether it's now Zoom, face-to-face, telephone, whatever the case may be, we've got to build the trust amongst all working parties, if you will. If you can't trust these people to be a part of this group, it's going to be very difficult, and it probably isn't going to work. So we've got to really work to build that trust factor in all directions. Clear communication, like I stated with the communication earlier, it's a problem. We've got to speak clearly. We've got to be able to give people the why, have them understand what you're looking for, what you're needing, but also what you're willing to provide. It can't be a one-way street like I talked about earlier. And, in my opinion, also in the clear communication, you also have to be a good, clear listener, not just communicator, voicing what's going on. So be able to listen, but not only listen and hear what's going on. Goal alignment is just that. We've got to all be on the same page, or else our music's not going to sound very good. That sheet music's got to be clear. It's got to be on the same page. Our goals have to be aligned and all looking for the same outcome, or else it's not going to work either. The leadership engagement, I believe that this personally should be leadership from the top to the bottom, but also you need to get a lot of feedback from the bottom to the top. The folks on the bottom are the ones, the boots on the ground. So if you don't talk to them, see what, give them the why, and just put this in place, you could have some problems, because that, back to communication, it's just got to work out. But your leadership has to be able to get along, be engaged, and, not only engaged, but be interactive with the process, or else I think it's going to come to a standstill. So some of the best practices and studies that we're going to look, the collaboration in emergency response and disaster management, some of the things, the integrated response efforts. Again, multiple agencies are coming together to have a rapid and efficient and effective outcome to, regardless of the incident you're coming to. Disaster responses, structured fires, wildland fires, MCIs, hazmats, whatever it may be that the call is made for, it's an integrated response of multiple agencies coming together. We talked about the pooling of the resources. You're bringing a bunch of resources together to build a good quality team. This may not just be boots on the ground. It might be an incident management team. You've got all of these resources from multiple different agencies, and you may be able to pool an IMT team together from that region, from that area. But you're pooling those resources and utilizing them to the best of their ability, but also to your agencies. And of course, as we are all in this together for the common reason of saving lives and property, that is, that collaboration and coordination, that right there to me is what is going to be the selling factor of, we are able to do this as one, coming together, saving lives and property. Again, as we all know, the importance of preparedness. If we train together, we stay together, we do all of this stuff, the importance of preparedness is seeing these incidents come to a hopefully successful fruition in a short amount of time, because we are prepared through all of these other things that we've talked about, the meetings, the communication, all of that. So flexible structures that we've talked about, adaptable organizational structures. Yeah, it may take change. And there's two things that a lot of firefighters don't like. That's the way things are and the way things are gonna be. So the change is difficult at times, but flexibility is huge. Shared communication, again, like we talked about, clear, conscious communication, concise communication between agencies promotes transparency and coordinated actions. Clear communication, honest communication is going to be huge. And continuous improvements. This is an ever-changing thing that, whether different agencies grow through technology, through manpower, through apparatus, whatever the case may be, it's continuously changing. So we've always got to be addressing and how can we improve, because we don't want to be stagnant. So as we move forward, again, looking at the different things, emerging trends in interagency cooperation, cross-section partnerships. These are huge. This is what we're talking about. We want the partnerships amongst different agencies. How can we enhance the cooperation? How can we enhance the resource sharing? It's always looking one step forward of how can we make this better. Community engagement and involvement is going to be paramount in this, because if you can sell this to the community that you're doing anything and everything that you can to increase manpower, utilize different apparatus, do everything you can that's not a cost to them per se, then when it comes time to ballot initiatives or things of that nature, they are going to trust you that you have done everything that you can before going to the people. And just letting them understand why you've got all these other agencies coming into your jurisdiction or their jurisdiction. So communication with the community is huge. Data-driven decision making, like I said, data. It's going to be able to, give a lot of the why of this is happening. We're doing this to increase response times. Well, by doing this, we have increased response times. Same thing with, number of apparatus to and or receiving responding personnel. We'll be able to, show the ISO organizations, the insurance service organizations, we've got these agencies now responding to the outlying areas. We're that much closer. We've got this amount of water. We've got this amount of people. So that's going to help. Integrated policy framework. Again, I talked about that a little bit ago. All of these agencies need to be on the same page, need to build policies to reflect what has been agreed upon, however that has worked amongst those agencies. So some of the advancements that we're talking about, technology, again, as we all know, it's ever changing. It's a dynamic job that we are in. And just because of that, I mean, if you have these collaborative and coordinated efforts amongst agencies within your area or region, not just one agency has to dive into the technology enhancements. I mean, one agency might go do a bunch of radio stuff or communication stuff. One might do a bunch of drone stuff. One might do early detection somehow in the forest with cameras or whatever the case may be. And again, through collaboration and coordination, you're dispersing these funds, but yet everybody is seeing the end result and usefulness of them. So, we've talked about a lot of this, close governance of the, how this is going to work and everything like that. Investments in training, like I said, that is going to be a ginormous one, whether it's a regional training center, whether it's however it is worked out, training has to be done amongst the different agencies. That way, we all understand and know what you have to bring to the table when you come. So that training is going to be a huge one. Cultural collaboration, again, like we talked about it again, we've got to set down our differences at times and go, you know what, I'm not always right. I don't always have the right pieces. So let's work together for the best end result. We've got to get the support and all of the proper legal documentation from all parties. So in conclusion, as I stated before, the importance of collaboration is just that. If we can bring those two or more agencies together to successfully and effectively have an outcome that works, not only for us but for the communities, then it's worked. Effective model utilization, employing proven collaboration models strengthens coordination and maximizes collaborative efforts. Sorry about the dog. And then overcoming challenges, that's going to be on everybody's behalf. We've got to work on it. We've all got to do it. And then embrace the innovation. Let's make this work together. Thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to do this with Columbia Southern. If you have any questions, there's my contact information. Look forward to hearing from you. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you.